Coming up tonight on Louisiana, the state we're in, a certain part of our society is not rebounding in the economic recovery like the rest of our population. Young people who've grown up without the advantages of life make up a big part of the ranks of the unemployed. And tonight we'll have a special report on what's being done to try to help them. Also, has Louisiana become the new Hollywood? Tonight, the new L.A. And finally, we'll visit Jimmy Davis on his 90th birthday. All of that and more coming up on Louisiana, the state we're in.
Production funding provided in part by the Ziegler Foundation of Jennings, Louisiana, and by Gulf States Utilities, helping bridge the gap to our energy future.
Good evening, and welcome to another edition of Louisiana, the state we're in. I'm your host, Robert Collins. Here's what we'll be looking at this evening. As new jobs are being created in our state, the group that has been labeled disadvantaged youth still has an unemployment rate of more than 20%. Tonight we'll focus on a big push to better train our young adults. Also, the history-making events in the last few days in Germany are of special interest to many Louisianans of German descent. And finally this evening, the Peace Corps is 28 years old and it's back in Louisiana to recruit volunteers. Those will be our major stories this evening, but first, a look at some of the news that's making headlines around the state. Governor Romer is back in the state after a short trip to Europe. Romer met mostly with French aerospace, petrochemical, and wood products officials in hopes of generating some business for Louisiana. The governor said that while nothing is a done deal, the interest is there.
The purpose of the trip was twofold. One, to try to accrue some publicity within the European market, particularly France, so that those companies who are presently interested or who will be interested in the future in investing in America would consider Louisiana.
The governor also talked with Air France and a private air carrier about some direct flights between France and Louisiana to increase tourism. The governor said about 47,000 French tourists visit our state each year, and that number could double. On Tuesday, Secretary of State Fox McKithen's top aide resigned. Daryl Glasscock blamed his boss's political enemies for having raised questions about several public opinion surveys done by members of McKithen's office. Complaints were raised over the surveys, including questions about McKithen's running for the U.S. Senate. Glasscock, by the way, reimbursed the state $122 for the cost of the 3 surveys. Finally, the State Board of Regents will meet on Tuesday to consider Frank Vandiver for the job of Interim Higher Education Commissioner. Vandiver is a noted historian and former president of Texas A&M University. The board's looking for an interim commissioner until the U.S. Supreme Court decides on Louisiana's college desegregation case. If a lower federal court's ruling in that case is upheld, it would completely overhaul Louisiana's present 4-board structure that runs state colleges. Next Friday here on Louisiana, the state we're in, we'll have a panel discussion on college desegregation. Now to this evening's lead story. Last month, the State Department of Labor reported that Louisiana's jobless rate was at its lowest point since April of 1981. Economists have been pointing to the upswing in local sales tax collections and to the 14,000 new jobs created in the state this year as signs that the economy is starting to turn around. But Karen Nachman has been taking a look at some of the people in this state who have yet to feel any of that economic turnaround. Karen?
Robert, even in the best of times, there's a segment of the population in Louisiana that finds looking for work just that, looking. The group is called the Disadvantaged Youth. Their profile looks like this. They are young people aged 16 to 21 with an unemployment rate in the state as of 1988 at 22.9%. These young people are usually from economically disadvantaged families. These are families where they receive cash welfare payments or whose annual income does not exceed the established poverty level. Education deficiencies such as illiteracy and high school dropouts are, however, the greatest barrier to employment of the disadvantaged. The lack of education and specific job skills can cause tremendous difficulties in obtaining employment.
As you know, our state leads the nation in unemployment. And those persons under 18, without a high school diploma, without any type of vocational skill, goes to an employer and seeks employment, they would tell them, sorry, I don't have anything for you this time because I have this 30-year-old man here who's been welding for 10 years and he's looking for a job. So those persons who are not yet of age, 21 or so, with no vocation, no high school education, is really falling through the cracks in Louisiana at this time.
But there is help to stop these kids from falling through the cracks. The Job Corps, celebrating its 25th year of existence. The nationwide program was made possible by the Economic Opportunity Act of 1964. The program serves youth who need or can benefit from educational and vocational training, counseling, health care, and health education, all to enhance their ability to secure a job.
I submit on a personal level, and the Job Corps approach is, we'll take people wherever they are, and we'll be about the business of teaching and earning our living to make that person better. That's what I think mainstream education has to be about. We're in the business of meeting people where they are, bringing them to the level where they can function. No more, no less.
To help make the youth in Louisiana more aware of these services, Job Corps is having a big push called Operation Full House in an attempt to increase enrollment in the Job Corps centers located in Shreveport and New Orleans. Job Corps recruiters and ambassadors go into the communities to talk to these young people.
When you're out in the field, I mean, in the communities, and the young people, you look at them where they are at this time and ask them, say, how old are you now? They say 17. I say, what would you like to be doing when you're 37 years old? Would you like to stay on this corner? Or would you like to see yourself doing data input, carpentry, painting, drywalling? Say, I would like to prepare you now for a job that can last you the rest of your life. And many times I try to direct those young persons toward union-taught trades that are available in Job Corps, something that they can earn a very good living doing. So I always tell them, look at me now. When you reach my age, what would you like to be doing? Would you like to be standing on the corner? Or would you like to be working someplace, earning some good money?
We're working to alleviate, if in fact that exists, this permanent underclass that we have, people who are born into a cycle, not necessarily their own choosing, accident of birth, where perhaps the immediate family is not about achievement and doing and getting better, or the circumstances, or perhaps even their own choice. This is America, and we do have the choice to make mistakes. But to help these people recuperate, if you're working with a young person, 18, 20 years of age, and the average life expectancy here is 72 or greater, then are you going to sacrifice the rest of those years and doom that person to failure or to the position of receiving a handout or a dole, or are you going to get to that person as quick as possible and say, hey, you matter, let me see if I can help you get back on the right track?
One of the people the Job Corps has helped is Adelaide Young, who is now a supervisor for the Job Corps. Young says the program can make as big a difference in these young people's lives as it did in hers.
You know, it's a lot of kids think that they're, heading for failure, but then they get in the centers and they've got good people working with them who builds up that self-esteem. So it makes them much more happier, I guess, with themselves, as well as, feeling confident that when I finish here, I can go out and become a very good employee for an employer.
And Young says that her experience as a student in the Job Corps helps her help these young people.
Being that I am a graduate, a lot of times when the kids come to me and say, well, I don't really know whether I want to go into this program or not, I say, well, look, it's all in believing in self. You've got to believe in yourself first. And then once you go into center, look at me. I started with of course, I had a year of college behind me, but it doesn't mean that you have to have college. You can start with not having a college degree and go on and really become a worthwhile individual in the community.
People who want to get ahead, who want to learn job skills, who want to better their condition are the people that we're looking for. But the age group that we're working with, of course, these are young adults, and some of them haven't really made a decision one way or another that they are going to be a part of the American system and be productive at it. And so we reach those people also because there's a lot of growth and maturity to be done in our program. In
my 14 years experience with Job Corps, I also worked as a screener in Homer area. And I remember one young fellow in particular from Napoleonville. He had dropped out of school, I think about 11th grade. I encouraged him to stay in school, but for some unknown reason, he didn't want to go back to school. But anyway, he went to the Job Corps program, and he was a success. About 10 months, he came back home with a trade in union carpentry and got a job at that time making $6.75 an hour, which was really good. And that stands out in my mind. The young man's name I've forgotten, but the experience I'll never forget.
Job Corps' employment placement rate is 75 to 90%. Operation Full House will continue through December 15th. If you or someone you know would be interested in the services Job Corps can provide, you can contact the State Department of Labor in Baton Rouge. They'll put you in touch with Job Corps recruiters in your area.
Thank you very much, Karen. The story of the week, if not the story of the year, is that of recent days involving the events in East Germany. Jeff Duhe tells us about some local reaction to the dramatic events in Europe. Jeff?
Well, recent immigrants from Germany are just as excited as their families and friends back home with the news of the wall coming down. Even with thousands of miles between Germany and here, the end of the Berlin Wall means the end of a malaise. When the Berlin Wall went up, no one thought they would live to see it come down. It was to be the permanent, literally concrete division between East and West. But this week, Germans began tearing it apart. Like the walls of Jericho, this tangible part of the Iron Curtain will fall.
In the scholarly ranks, no one anticipated anything like this. I was in Chicago at a meeting 3 weeks ago, and all the experts who were there on Eastern Europe and Germany, East Germany, were expressing their great surprise.
It was disbelief at first, because everyone considers it a miracle, and I certainly do. And this is making some changes in my attitude towards almost everything, because if this is possible, then anything is possible. When I grew up in Germany, I accepted the division of Germany as status quo, and I didn't even, as a lot of other Germans didn't, consider that there would be any changes in my lifetime there.
Olivier and other Germans who live and work in Louisiana are still sorting out what the wall meant to them. They also are pondering the implications of its fall. Renate Grunberger owns the Black Forest Deli. She cooks and serves authentic German lunches and desserts to business people in downtown Baton Rouge. Grunberger remembers how Germans struggled to rebuild their cities after the Second World War. The austerity of the time, she says, taught her good business sense. The deli has been a growing success for 5 years now. She came to Louisiana 12 years ago.
I think it enables us to, first of all, be more detached and maybe look already beyond, look a little bit further, since we are not so close up with the situation. For example, looking at the role Russia eventually will play in it, and of course, Gorbachev already played a vital role in the development of events by encouraging the events, and hopefully a very vital economic and cultural exchange will take place. And I think maybe we are better able to gauge it from here than being so close up. And I have had friends in Berlin at that time growing up later, meeting them in Munich when I went to university there, who left Berlin for that reason, because they couldn't bear the impact, the psychological impact of the wall. And when I visited Berlin, it must have been in the 60s, we went there on a school trip. I experienced it the same. It was really very devastating, and I cannot see how anybody would live there and be confronted with it every day.
You said psychological impact. What's the impact now that the wall is coming down?
Well, I would say it's just the other way around. There's a great elation and happiness and joy, and people all of a sudden feel that maybe the Second World War has finally ended. It's almost like these last remnants are gone, and they can finally breathe again.
Since the plummeting price of oil taught our state the value of diversification, local chambers of commerce and state business planners have began to cultivate European trade and business prospects. Monica Olivier is heading one commission to make sure visitors to our state leave with an accurate impression. She says Louisiana must look beyond its local markets.
Oh, and it's doing that, yes. It's doing that. The business community here is very much aware of what's happening over there and is seeking information now. It's still in the building stage, but there are going to be a lot of repercussions with new approaches to doing business with Europe.
What I would suggest to Louisianians is, if you're going to take a European vacation, go to Eastern Europe for a variety of reasons. Number one, to go see what's going on, get a piece of the wall. The other reason is, show these people, the Hungarians, the East Germans, the Poles, that we at least encourage them on a very personal level. We really are eager for them to succeed in what they're doing.
Many Louisianians have a strong German pedigree, but the first-generation Germans here are still talking with family over there. They're elated and more than a bit proud of their homeland.
Now, many of the original German settlers in Louisiana made their homes in the river parishes between New Orleans and Baton Rouge.
Thanks, Jeff. In that same part of the world, some of America's Peace Corps volunteers are being dispatched to Hungary and to Poland. This is the Peace Corps' 28th year, and it's seeing a new wave of volunteers. Karen's been looking into the modern-day Peace Corps. And Karen, what have you found?
The 1960s and early 70s were a time of peace and love. It was a time of political awareness, not only in our country, but around the world. There was a new president, a man of the future, who captured the essence of this generation when he issued this challenge in 1961.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
They were sometimes called Kennedy's children, the young, enthusiastic kids who joined the Peace Corps, leaving behind the comforts of home to spend 2 years in a foreign country, promoting world peace, friendship, and socio-economic change. One of Kennedy's kids was Sonny Cranch, who is today an advertising executive. Cranch served in the Federated States of Micronesia, a small chain of islands in the Pacific near Guam. After graduating from college in 1967 with a degree in international trade and finance, Cranch lived and worked for nearly 3 years on an island about the size of Baton Rouge. Here he helped locals build roads and improve agricultural crops.
Really, it was the whole deal is, the line is you try to work yourself out of a job. And that's basically what we were trying to do. Very capable people, very smart people could do anything. Their only difference was that they're on an island in the middle of the Pacific and subsequently cut off from a lot of the communications and the information that people in America or people in the Western world have available to them just on a moment's notice, both through their education and television and books, et cetera, et cetera.
Another well-known phrase associated with the Peace Corps, "It's the toughest job you'll ever love," is more than just a motto to Sonny Cranch.
It really is true. You know, you live in in my particular instance, I lived in a little 10 by 14 foot house, which had no electricity. I had a water catchment system. I had kerosene stoves to cook on and you know, kerosene lamps to read by at night. But you might think it was a hardship, but actually you get quite accustomed to it and really wonder how or why we need all of the opulence and space that we have in our homes here in Baton Rouge or here in America.
By the time Cranch returned to the States in the 1970s, not only had a new decade begun, but a new mood and feeling was sweeping the country. Sociologists termed it the Me Decade, a time when Americans became more interested in themselves than others, and the Peace Corps' numbers dwindled as a result. But by the mid-1980s, the Peace Corps began to see a resurgence of volunteerism.
Yeah, especially with the Hungary programs that are opening up, and also we're going into Poland real soon for English teachers. It has created a real large interest from the general public, and it's been pretty steady, it really has. And we look forward to placing as many people as we can.
This week, the Peace Corps, now in its 28th year, has been on college campuses across the state, recruiting volunteers to serve in one of the 100 countries where it provides aid.
Basically, it changes your life. I think for me personally, I grew as an individual. I became more aggressive, more of a go-getter. I'm able to face challenges a lot easier. It just really is a very unique experience, and that's what I tell people when they think of Peace Corps.
I'm one of the people that can remember when Kennedy started the Peace Corps about 28 years ago, and all of a sudden I found myself in a position in life where I was free and I could go do anything I wanted to, and I thought, hey, Peace Corps, I'll go join Peace Corps. So that's what I did.
Not only is the Peace Corps looking for young volunteers, but they are looking for the older volunteer as well. Like Betty Edgren, a Peace Corps recruiter who at the age of 50 decided to volunteer for a 2-year mission in the Dominican Republic. This mother and grandmother said that they were 2 of the greatest years of her life.
Well, the women in my community wanted to learn American recipes, and they didn't have the ingredients and couldn't afford them. So I taught them to make fudge because it has all Dominican agricultural ingredients and products, rather. So they decided that was fun, and we learned how to make it, and we made coconut flavored and coffee flavored with the local ingredients, and we started marketing fudge in the Supermercado Dominicanos before I left the country. We got a grant from USAID for kitchen equipment. It was really a different project.
The Peace Corps. Some 28 years later, it's alive and well. And whether you're 18 or 88, the Peace Corps is an experience that will last a lifetime. The Peace Corps has had more than 121,000 volunteers serve in 99 developing countries over the last 28 years, and they're gearing up to enter their 100th country this year. Hungary has invited the Peace Corps to teach English to the Hungarian people. If you're interested in finding out more about the Peace Corps, you can call the nearest recruiting office in Dallas, Texas at 1-800-527-9216.
Thanks, Karen. Finally this evening, if you've noticed that it seems that there are more people from Hollywood popping up around Louisiana these days, it's not a coincidence. Some 15 movies have been made in our state in the last 3 years, and more are coming. Jeff's been investigating Louisiana's growing business of filmmaking, and Jeff, there was just a big movie premiere in Natchitoches. How did that go?
It was really a lot of fun, Robert. Actresses Dolly Parton and Daryl Hannah came to Natchitoches for the local premiere of Steel Magnolias, a play written by a resident of that town and made into a big-budget film last year. Hollywood studios and the latest movie makers have taken a liking to our state, and the state seems to be returning the affection.
The little town of Natchitoches, which we visited earlier in this season on the occasion of its 275th birthday, went west coast last week. Hundreds of palm trees were hauled into Prather Coliseum at Northwestern State University for the state premiere of a movie about life in a small southern town. When the producers were scouting a location for their filming, city leaders sold them on the charm and cooperation available here.
We were in competition with Atlanta, Georgia, and they sent their people in, and they took a look at us. And, of course, the playwright, Bob Harling, is from here in Natchitoches, so I think we can contribute the movie directly to Mr. Harling.
The movie crew left almost a year ago, but Natchitoches still had reason to celebrate. The movie is complete and is already showing nationwide. A year later, the excitement hasn't worn off, and partygoers were looking back on how good Steel Magnolias was to the town.
While they were filming, it meant about $4 million to us. And we think with the tourism, the next 3-4 years could mean as much as $10 million to us. Our sales tax 2 months ago was 9% increase. Last month was 14%, so we feel like tourism is going to be our bag of worms.
But the long-term effect of gelling this community together and to putting Natchitoches in the, not only in this state, but in the nation as the site of this major production certainly is going to have a very positive effect on our people and on our area of the state.
If the movie was nice to Natchitoches, Natchitoches was nicer to the movie. The town eagerly rerouted traffic, let crews trim historic trees, and brought homemade treats for the stars. People moved out of their homes at a price, of course, for stars like Shirley MacLaine, Olympia Dukakis, and the big name here, Dolly Parton.
We had a great time while we were down here. I feel real close to home down here.
Do you like Louisiana?
Oh, I love it. I have a lot of friends here.
Did you have an easy time working here?
I had a great time. I and I'll come back again if I get half a chance.
Did you enjoy working in Louisiana?
Oh, yeah, I loved it. I'm so happy to be back. Yeah, it was my first time ever being down in the South when I worked here.
How did people treat you?
Great. Everyone was so nice. And is.
All the cooperation the producers received from the people of this town was one of the reasons they decided to make Natchitoches the backdrop for Steel Magnolias. Coordinating the goodwill and publicity of Louisiana to movie moguls is Glen Pitre's new job. Pitre directed Belazar the Cajun and other Louisiana film story. The cut-off native now heads the State Film and Video Office.
When they're actually coming in, we can provide further assistance in terms of mostly helping them through the maze of state government. If they need special permits for the size of trucks they're bringing in, or if they need to have a road closed temporarily while they're filming, that sort of thing we help. When they begin to look for crew, we obviously encourage them to hire as many local people as possible.
Pitre says movies are one of Louisiana's best new businesses. They don't pollute, they bring in a lot of money fast, and they excite local residents at the same time they pay local businesses for a wide variety of services.
The cooperation is a huge factor. It's so important, and it's so vital for bringing these movies in. And it's important to bring these movies in because they leave a lot of dollars behind. They leave a lot of money behind, not just for the few people who get bit parts as extras or get to work on the crew, but also the local lumber yard, because they have to buy lumber to build sets and hardware, and the local office supply store, because they come and they set up an office for the duration of their filming, and for the dry cleaners who has all these costumes that have to go through there, and for the hotels who might have 60 rooms booked for a period of weeks, and for the restaurants, because you've got all these cast and crew there getting generous per diems who are going out to eat at night, and on down the line.
The city of New Orleans has its own Office of Film Relations. The Crescent City is blessed with a variety of backdrops. You could film anything here, from Hello Dolly to Star Trek.
It tickles me to death when I get requests for a one-horse town. They say, oh, Tesa, we're looking for a one-horse town. Have you got that? Or we're talking Leave It to Beaver neighborhood. I mean, you know, it's charming in that they just throw this location requirement out to you, and you have to figure it out. You know, no script, no nothing.
This office is very definitely an economic, I mean, it's part of the Department of Culture, Recreation, and Tourism under Lieutenant Governor Hardy, but it's very much an economic development agency. We exercise no editorial control over the projects that come here. We're not asked to, and that's not our job.
Ready and action! Cut. Go again.
There seems to be little argument the movie makers will be back to our state again and again. If we treat them right and don't mind some inconvenience in our neighborhoods, they'll spend a lot of money here. The state is banking films shown nationwide will whet the taste of tourists who will want to see more of the real thing.
Other productions in progress are a cable venture called Traveling Man, a movie called The Pistol being filmed in Hammond, and a British music video program visiting the Crescent City.
Thanks, Jeff. I guess the movies like Louisiana as much as we like the movies. Well, that's our show for this week. As we mentioned earlier, we invite you to join us next week for a panel discussion on college desegregation. And as we leave this evening, we would like to share with you some scenes from former Governor Jimmy Davis's 90th birthday party that was held last weekend. Happy birthday, Governor.
Production funding provided in part by the Ziegler Foundation of Jennings, Louisiana, and by Gulf States Utilities, helping bridge the gap to our energy future.